Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 716 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Saturday, August 16th, 2025, for broadcast on Monday, August 18th, 2025. So we're doing a little time traveling. Currently, kids and cubs, if you are watching in real time, I am in Toronto, basically waking up after a good night's sleep, I hope, following my father-in-law's birthday party. So I spent the weekend surrounded by family, but not my beaver sweetie, who's still enjoying time in Romania. And celebrations, good food, good drink, good company, all that good stuff. So I am probably in a very good mood and my mental health is probably fantastic at the time you're watching this. But right now, as I'm recording this, my mental health is also pretty good. Although I am a tiny little bit stressed because, of course, I'm on a schedule. I have a bus to catch and I definitely don't want to miss it. So I'm trying to get a lot of stuff done before I go. As anybody who's ever gone away for a short trip or whatnot knows, there's a couple of things you always have to do around the house before you go and make sure everything's taken care of so that you don't come back to weird surprises like a whole bunch of fruit flies in your compost bin or something like that. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And not with me, as usual, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Was hoping to be able to have him on the show for the pre-record, but he is currently enjoying some fantastic time of his own at the golf weekend and cottage weekend with a friend, and I hope that he is having a wonderful time. We will do our best to try and find another opportunity to get you your dose of Grizzly because we know that you miss him. I do too. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. I'm all alone here, so I can't do the magic monitor, but I will say good morning to the best DAMFAM in all of podcasting because I know you have joined us this morning, as you do every morning. And we very much appreciate your presence and your continued support. We have a very quick show for you today. However, we did want to focus on Pierre Poilièvre because, as you know, kids and cubs, today is voting day. If you haven't voted in advance, in Battle River-Crowfoot, which is the by-election. A lot of media have been presenting it as Pierre Poilièvre's by-election. It is not. It is the by-election of the residents of Battle River-Crowfoot, in which Pierre Poilièvre happens to be a candidate. Now, a very big name candidate and a leader of a political party, but still a candidate just like every other one in that race, with a possible asterisk for all the people from the long ballot committee who clearly are not serious candidates, or at least their primary concern is not for the residents of Battle River-Crowfoot. So if we stick to the people that do have the residents of Battle River-Crowfoot as their primary concern or actually running in this by-election for legitimate reasons, well then, he's a candidate just like any other, not any more special, not more deserving of more attention or more rights or more anything than any other. Just a peer among other peers. But of course, it has not been marketed this way. Now, over the course of the past few weeks, Kits and Cubs, we have had the pleasure of having independent candidate Bonnie Critchley with us twice, and we hope that you did see those interviews and enjoyed them and found them informative. We also had the opportunity to have Sarah Spanier, who was absolutely delightful, join us as well and talk to us about her candidacy. And I'm sure that both of them are very eagerly awaiting results to see how they did. And Kits and Cubs, for those of you who are wondering, yes, we will have a live results show tonight, starting at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time or 10:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Mr. Grizzly probably will not join us for that, given that he has to be up so early in the morning. But hopefully before that, I can get Mr. Grizzly to record a Grizzly Growl for us of some kind with regard to this by-election that we'll be able to play during this evening's live show for you. Because we like to go the extra mile, and this is still a by-election of rather significant importance. Because today, Kits and Cubs, we are finally going to get some conclusive information with regard to Pierre Poilièvre's future as a politician and how difficult or not it may be. And a lot of it will depend on the results of this by-election and, of course, the margin by which he has a victory, or we always have to open the door to the possibility that he does not win, which is something I would really love. But because it couldn't happen to a douchier person. However, if we're going on odds and statistics, because he has the best name recognition, would seem to indicate that he will win. And the question is, by how much? I personally, because I am a resident optimist, believe that it is possible. I do believe that Bonnie Critchley ran a campaign that was meaningful enough and significant enough and had a personal touch enough with the residents in order to be able to surprise. But then again, we know that the conservative machine is very, very, very strong, has more money than God. So we'll see what happens. We have been getting the sense, however, that Pierre is a little concerned about the result, given some pronouncements that he has made recently. On Friday's show, we talked about a little screed that he put out with all bunch of things that he, of course, believes Mark Carney failed at. And then we went through them and we debunked pretty much all of them because it was all BS. But that and a series of other things about which we are going to talk about today seem to indicate that that growing and learning that they keep on announcing that they will do, and that change in tone that they keep on announcing that they will do, is not going to come. It doesn't exist because the leader of the party has an total incapability for pivoting. And of course, as I've mentioned several times, he's our national nexus of narcissistic negativity. So he never has anything nice to say about Canada, and very rarely nice things to say about other Canadians, at least those who don't act as an echo chamber for whatever it is that he personally claims to believe. Whether he actually believes these things is a whole other story altogether, because, well, Pierre, pretty much like Trump, tends to say a lot of things, and tends to say things to get through the current nanosecond and to win the current media moment. But when you start stacking them all together, they make no sense. It's just a jumbled mess of pronouncements in which he ends up saying one thing and the opposite. It's almost like a Mariah Carey. If Mariah Carey was a politician rather than a singer, rather than just picking a note and holding it, will sing all the notes on the scale and choose to do a run instead. This is Pierre. He often says one thing and its opposite, and if you put them together, you'll see that his positions are entirely incoherent, extremely simplistic, and not particularly thoughtful or strategic. if one is looking at a long game. If you look at every one of these pronouncements in a vacuum, as if they're detached from all reality and consequence and detached from anything else that any other player on the field could be doing to influence them, then some of his positions make sense. But that's a lot of work to do, and that's a lot of reality to deny in order to give him some benefit of the doubt that he has some type of, how would I put it, well thought out strategy involved other than just flooding the zone with BS and negativity and hoping at some point that life will throw his opposition some curveballs that make them look bad. And then he can go turn around and say, see, I told you all along, right? Basically, Pierre is Nostradamus. He makes these broad pronouncements. And if something that is somewhat similar to what he said comes to pass, then he pretends that he has these great predictive capabilities and that he saw this coming and that he was the only one talking about these things. But um, when that happens, it's more of a broken clock situation. And 9 times out of 10, he's either twisted, torqued, omitted something, or added something to the story or the narrative to make it fit. And when you look at it close, it actually doesn't. Anyhow, getting more into it, kits and cubs, let's look at a couple of those statements that he has indeed made over the last while. And not just him, but a few from certain members of his party as well, kits and cubs, because yeah, if you're looking to be impressed right now, you're probably not going to be. This is very, very low quality stuff. So the first thing I have from you is for an MP whose name is Larry Brock. We'll often hear his name. He tends to be rather vocal and likes a lot of attention. He's the MP for Brantford Brant. And a lot of the MPs in Pierre's caucus, when they make public pronouncements, they're mostly attempts to fluff the leader, right? And make him seem uh, like more of a leader or someone who's strategic or someone who thinks or someone that has great ideas than he really is when you take a closer look. But however, let's go into this. Uh, Here's what Larry Brock had to say a couple of days ago here. Let's see if I've got this up on screen for you. Yes, I do. Okay, perfect. Mark Carney promised he could take on Trump and win for Canada, but there's still no trade deal, no concessions, and more U.S. tariffs punishing Canadian workers. He scrapped our digital services tax on Trump's orders and got nothing in return. Now he can't even get a phone call back. Worse, Carney hasn't lifted a finger to repeal the same liberal laws blocking development here at home. This isn't the leadership he promised. Canadian. Yeah, typo there. Okay, let's take a little closer look at that and, of course, go through why that is bullshit. First of all, conservatives have a very interesting definition of the word promise. You will notice that Pierre Poilièvre has lately been saying a whole bunch of things. He calls Carney master negotiator, Mark Carney, as if Mark Carney ever presented himself as a master negotiator rather than someone who has a lot of experience in negotiation and much more experience than Pierre, and therefore was probably the best fit for the job considering the current moment. So somebody turning around and saying, hey, I actually have skills at this and I've done this type of stuff before. The conservatives have turned, so I'm the best place to get results. The conservatives have turned that into Mark Carney has promised that he could take on Trump and win for Canada. No such promise was made. But there's still no trade deal, no concessions, and more U.S. tariffs punishing Canadian workers. Yes, there is no trade deal, but there is no trade deal with anybody at all. So we're not special, we're not unique, and this is not a failure of Mark Carney personally, but more an indication of what it is like to deal with Donald Trump. Another line of rhetoric that comes from all the PP stains out there online is that, oh yes, yeah, Canada is doing whatever Donald Trump wants. And it's like, well, look, we spent all that money on defense, didn't we? Yeah, and so did every other member of NATO. When an entire military alliance decides that they're going to raise their defense spending. Again, we're not special. We're not unique. It's not a situation of Trump told Mark Carney specifically how high to jump, and then Mark Carney did. The whole alliance did it. Right? So conservatives like to do this thing where they take two different situations that have one thing in common, I guess, and because these two things have one thing in common, therefore it is proving their point or therefore conclusive evidence of whatever it is that they are claiming, right? But we all know that two things having one point in common does not make them exactly the same. And the example I keep on using, it comes from philosophy. And when we talk about sophistry, those types of arguments would be sort of like me saying, well, an elephant has big ears and you have big ears, so therefore you must be an elephant. And you could be standing there and say, well, clearly I'm not an elephant. I'm clearly very clearly human. I mean, we can grab a mirror and look at us both together, and you will see that I look more like you than I look like an elephant. And then they'll just turn and goes, no, 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 you both have big ears. You're an elephant. You are an elephant, despite all evidence to the contrary. Right? That's the conservative way to bring about arguments and then claim that they have a point when they actually don't have one at all. Then he goes here, he scrapped our digital services tax on Trump's orders. No, Trump left the negotiating table claiming that the digital service tax was an issue. We actually don't know if that was an issue. We do not know if we got nothing in return because good trade negotiators, and Canada has the best ones in the world, do not react, do not leak, and do not put on a show. So Larry Brock is taking whatever Carolyn Levitt said and running to the bank with it as if it is a fact. And any party in Canada these days that would take the word of anything coming from the White House and run with it like it is a fact is clearly not a serious party, and certainly one that is not working for the best interest of Canadians. When another country determines that it wants to annex you or it wants to crush you or destroy your economy, or as Mark Carney says, break us in order to be able to own us, and then you take their message and you run with it as if it is true, and you use that message to bash your fellow countrymen, you are doing the other nation's dirty work for them. You're basically putting a big billboard on your back saying, hey, if you want to destroy this country, call on us. We'll help. So not only is it a sign of being unprepared and mentally lazy, too lazy to actually do the work of coming up with a valid argument or a valid way to oppose something that the government is doing, um, it's just lame. It's lazy. And it's utter and total nonsense. And it is also disloyal. Yes, I said the word disloyal. Then he goes, we got nothing in return. Well, we don't know if we got nothing in return. Again, our trade team doesn't talk. Maybe we did get something in return. We're just not bragging about it. Maybe we got something in return that was so good or made it very clear that we weren't going to move on a couple of things. And we made that point very clearly that Trump got pissed off and decided to throw a little tantrum and say it was the digital services tax. I mean, August 1st came and went, and we didn't get a trade deal. It's not because we don't want one. It's because there was no deal on the table. And again, if we're going to have a trade deal, well, when there are two parties negotiating a trade deal, one person alone or one party alone cannot make it happen. There has to be agreement between both. So if we don't have one, clearly it's because we do not have agreement. Now, either it's because we do not want to swallow what it is, the best offer that Donald Trump has put on the table, or it's because we have let Donald Trump that there's certain things that he really, really wants that he's just not going to get. And therefore he's throwing a little tantrum and doesn't want to go in front of a microphone and a camera and say he didn't get a win at our expense, because Donald Trump could say he got a win if he would acknowledge that we would get some wins too. and that trade deals are supposed to be win-win. But with Donald Trump, everything is I win and you've lost. And I've won because you've lost. So therefore, Donald Trump clearly can't say that right now. So clearly, we are not caving, as many people in the sycophantic conservative press would like us to believe. And then now he can't even get a phone call back. I'm not sure why Larry Brock said that because he has no way of knowing that at all. Then again, worse, Carney hasn't lifted a finger to repeal the same liberal laws blocking development here at home, so they're back to the same old stuff. Why isn't Mark Carney governing in the way that we would govern if we had been elected? Because Canadians rejected you and your ideas. Perhaps that's why. And considering Carney's personal popularity and the gulf between the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party that has opened since the election, it would seem that most Canadians support the approach of Mark Carney and probably would not be too keen with Mark Carney deciding to change this approach to adopt all the conservative policies and put them into place, even though the conservatives keep on claiming that Mark Carney stole all their policies. And then finally, this isn't the leadership he promised Canadians. Well, I don't know what Mr. Brock is complaining about because Mr. Brock didn't want this leadership that Mark Carney promised Canadians, or at least campaigned on, because he campaigned against it and lost. So I think you're starting to get a sense of the tone that is being used in these posts and pronouncements from members of the Conservative Party, the leader, and other people in order to try to run a certain narrative that is not working for them really. Then Pierre Poilièvre came out a while after that when the U.S. increased the duties and stuff. I believe anti-dumping duties or tariffs or whatnot, call them whatever you are. They all act the same way at the end of the day on our softwood lumber. And he said, U.S. tariffs on our softwood lumber have now officially doubled. Canadian workers are being crushed by unjustified tariffs on softwood, steel, aluminum, autos, energy, agriculture, and almost everything else. Prime Minister Carney promised he'd be elbows up, but since he's been in office, tariffs have only gotten worse. Okay, yes, tariffs have only gotten worse, but again, they've gotten worse for everyone. Pretty much. Again, we are not special. We have not been singled out for special treatment here. So again, this is not so much an issue about Mark Carney, but it reveals something about what it is like to deal with Donald Trump. And again, it's really, really rich for conservatives to be complaining about the position of elbows up or elbows down, because the conservative position is face down, ass up in front of Trump. Again, criticizing elbows up and claiming elbows down only matters if you are an entity who would have their elbows more up than that which was promised. And that is most definitely not the Conservative Party of Canada. A couple of other things that Pierre had to say over the past few days that were just silly. Quote, since Mark Carney became PM, Canada has 50,000 more people unemployed, and the deficit is estimated to be twice what should have left behind, and most U.S. tariffs on Canada have doubled. Things are getting worse. Again, another one. No oil pipelines, no LNG plants, no road to Ring of Fire. All Prime Minister Carney has done is hold meetings, set up new bureaucracies and set up new bureaucratic offices and talk. Enough talk. Where's the action? All of these things that Pierre is complaining that we do not have yet require preparatory work, and preparatory work is action, and that is what's going on right now. But Pierre won't acknowledge that. Pierre seems to live in a reality where you can say, hey, we want pipelines, and then 6 months later, one magically appears, as if you can get a pipeline built in 6 months or even approved in 6 months, as Pierre Poilièvre should know, given his about decade in government, during which the Conservative Party of Canada did not manage to lay 1 inch of pipe towards Tidewater. This is a man that has direct experience with how difficult it is to get a pipeline built. Now, mind you, the Conservatives made it more difficult for themselves because they just did not want to negotiate in any way, shape, or form with Indigenous people. And when the Supreme Court of Canada said that they had to, and in their decisions actually handed the Conservative Party of Canada a roadmap to how it is that they could do things so that the manner in which they were going about getting pipelines would be constitutional, the Conservatives, rather than just do what the courts asked, decided instead to write a whole bunch of fundraising letters claiming them to be activist judges and raised millions and millions and millions of dollars off that. So separated fools from their money, but never delivered an inch of pipeline to Tidewater because the Conservatives need the issue to keep doing what they do. They don't need the solution. And we can see that again with regard to TMX. Recently, Brian Jean of the UCP posted something to Twitter bragging about all the wonderful benefits that have come Alberta's way thanks to TMX, but and musing aloud about uh, how would you put it? Um, how much more we could have had we had all those other pipelines that they want. But um, to do that, you have to acknowledge that the reason that you're having all these wonderful benefits right now that you're saying, oh my God, isn't it such a shame that we don't have more, came from the fact that a party that was not yours and a movement that you've opposed tooth and nail every single step of the way on everything was uh, the instance that managed to get done that which they could not. And that's just something that they are not prepared to do at this moment. And that is pretty sad. Very, very sad on the part of the Conservatives. And that's whether that's federal or provincial. Um, you know, basically saying, trying to take credit for the success and for the benefits of a decision that was something that they actually do like, because trust me, they're very happy that TMX is there and that they are getting all this additional revenue from it. They are super excited about that. But they just cannot bring themselves to say thank you to anybody else that made that happen. And that, DAMFAM, may I remind you, includes us if you are watching this, because that TMX twinning came in at about $37 billion, if I'm not mistaken, and all of us contribute to making that happen. But you don't see Alberta thanking, if not Trudeau or the Liberals, because, well, that would give them hives, at least thanking the Canadian people for what it is that they have contributed in order to make that happen. Because you have to realize that $37 billion was all money that we could have spent on other things that we need, other projects that we wanted, other priorities, but we didn't. We spent it there basically to shut Alberta up. Now, there's other things. Yes, it is a resource into which we have put a lot of money over the course of the years. And this pipeline to Tidewater does indeed give us the opportunity to maximize that previous investment. But um, that's because of the generosity of Canadians that have decided to forego other priorities in order to make that happen. So it was on August 15th that Brian Jean wrote, the TMX expansion has produced some very positive results. Can you imagine how much better off Canada's economy would be with more of this development? Didn't see the word Trudeau in there. So these Conservatives talking about TMX like it's an expansion that just happened, like it was the virgin birth or something. So there was no pipeline, and then there was one. And then we started making all this money. Wow. Imagine how much more. And how did that pipeline get there? Oh, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. Not at all. It's, again, just not serious, kids and cubs. Not serious in the least. All right. More comments about from Pierre here. Liberal jobless crisis worsens with 40,000 losses in July. Youth unemployment now at a 15-year high as Carney keeps liberal policies of job-killing taxes, blocking resources, and out-of-control immigration. There are 50,000 more unemployed Canadians today than when Mr. Carney became PM. He is making it worse. Yes, because there's absolutely nothing going on in the world right now that is making it such that our job numbers are being affected, like country south of us unilaterally imposing tariffs in a crazy way, right? No. And by the way, for those who are watching the live show, I am so sorry that I didn't switch back to me talking that entire time and that basically you had that visual up there. I forgot to switch the camera back on. That's my bad. I'm sorry. Thank you for your patience because I did talk a lot there for a second without bringing myself back on screen. And then finally, kids and cubs, I think that there's another one in this list. Oh, there's more. Okay. U.S. tariffs on our softwood lumber have now officially doubled. Canadian workers are being crushed by unjustified tariffs on softwood, steel, aluminum, autos, energy, agriculture, and almost everything else. Prime Minister Carney promised he'd be elbows up, but since he's been in office, tariffs have only gotten worse. Conservatives are ready to work with all parties and get a deal for Canadians. Again, a lot of repetition. And that last line in there, again, is a hilarious joke because if the Conservatives have shown anything at all, is that they are willing to work with pretty much nobody. And if they want to get a deal, it's not for our benefit. That's absolutely for sure. Now, the Conservatives did sign on to C5 here, but other than signing on to C5, it's pretty much been a constant course of negativity. Again, same strategy as happened before the election. And then again, more here about people employed and the deficit and tariffs have doubled. Things are getting worse. So that's what Pierre wants you to know. Things are getting worse. Things are getting worse. Oh my God, things are getting worse. And it's all Mark Carney's fault. There's nothing that nobody else in the world is doing to make these situations more difficult. It's just Mark Carney is just so completely inherently incompetent that he just can't get it done. That's all that's all you need to know. Vote me, I can. Now you will notice in all of that there are no solutions on his part. There's no offers on his part to help. It's not like Mark Carney is so bad that he needs to step in and offer and make some suggestions or something, right? He's just saying there's a problem. This is terrible. Pointing you to who to blame, and then asking you to fire as he puts the gun in your hand. That's all this type of stuff is, and this is Pierre Poilièvre's playbook from beginning to end, and the increase in I'm sorry, the phone is ringing here. The increase in the number of these um, dismissive posts because the activity had calmed down for a while, but over the past, I'd say about 8 days or so, has very much ramped up. So this to me is a sign that Pierre's needs to be making these wild statements in order to secure a big enough margin in Battle River-Crowfoot, because he seemed to be perfectly content to just be more invisible for a while, but that clearly was not working for him. And then he came up with this other thing a few days ago called the Canadian Sovereignty Act. Gee, I wonder where he got that idea. Hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's true. Sorry. He stole Danielle Smith's idea for the name of an act. And then when he talks about the act, all the things that are in there are all the things that he has mentioned before, like repealing the so called tanker ban, even though we do have tankers leaving at the moment, to oppose or repeal the allegedly No More Pipelines Act, under which some pipeline actually had been built. Um, the repealing the EV mandates, all this type of stuff, all the stuff that he has been saying all along. He's basically taking those two things, repackaged them, put another sticker on it, new label, called it the Canada Sovereignty Act, and says, yeah, this is the thing that will end the chicken and egg quagmire that Liberals and other anti-energy actors have used to block pipeline projects in Canada. Let me remind you, kits and cubs, that it was now close to 2 months ago, maybe, that Danielle Smith promised Albertans and Canadians that she would have a proponent for that pipeline she wanted, to the exclusion of any other project, so much so that she didn't propose any whatsoever, that she would have that proponent for us. And, yeah, we are Saturday, August 16th at the moment. And there is no proponent. Yeah. It's almost like they just say things, right? It's almost like they just say things. That First Minister's meeting in Kananaskis was June 20th. July, August. We're nearly 2 months later. Danielle Smith promised a proponent in weeks. We don't have one. Now, Pierre Poilièvre wants even more pipelines, it would seem. He wants two of them, I think, and then a couple of other things as well in that project. So I'm just going to look this up here very quickly, kits and cubs, because I had brought it up. For some reason, it had disappeared from my screen. So there we go. Hopefully, we will have that. And here we go. The Conservative Party of Canada said, today, Pierre Poilièvre unveiled the Canadian Sovereignty Act and call to action a plan to counter illegal foreign tariffs and get Canada back to work. In a time of global uncertainty, Canada must be strong, united, and ready to build. Quote, the Canadian Sovereignty Act unites us to stand up for our country, our workers, and our sovereignty, said Poilièvre. We're ready to work with anyone from any party to make that happen. That is a lie. In recent weeks, President Trump has imposed a series of new tariffs on Canadian exports. The tariffs are unjust, illegal, and deeply damaging to workers, businesses, and economies on both sides of the border. Quote, let's be clear. Shades of Harper. President Trump is the one putting these tariffs on Canadians, but Mark Carney is the one who promised Canadians he could handle him and win, Poilièvre continued. He never promised that. The Prime Minister told Canadians he'd get a deal at the G7, then a deal by July 21st, and then by August 1st. Actually, that is not true. Nobody said that there would be a deal at the G7. As we explained on the show, a lot of people thought that the G7 would be a good time to announce a deal, given that it was a high-profile media event. But as the G7 approached, everybody had come to the conclusion that that was not going to happen. So I don't know why his memory is faulty, but it is. Then a deal by July 21st. That's the date that Mark Carney put on Donald Trump as a manner to pressure him, because dealing with him is like nailing Jello to a wall, to have some type of conclusion. And then it was Donald Trump who blew past that deadline by saying that certain things would happen on August 1st, not Mark Carney. Again, a negotiation with two parties in which both parties say and do things that change the ultimate outcome and deadlines, not just one. And then by August 1st, again, it was Donald Trump who on August 1st was not ready to announce everything, not Mark Carney. Today, Canada doesn't have a deal or a timeline for one, and right now, Pierre Poilièvre is stating this like it's a bad thing when it is not, because at some point along the way, Canada, Mark Carney and our negotiating team, realized that Donald Trump does not want a deal, doesn't want a deal. He wants things that he can keep on holding over our head. He wants things that he can say that he can keep on pulling out the rug and moving the goalposts and keep us destabilized. But he does not want a deal. So once we realized that we do not want a deal, then our strategy changed to ragging the puck as long as possible, dragging our heels for court case decisions, for inflation numbers to hit, for employment constriction in the United States, for stagflation to take hold, for revolt from within the inside of the United States to happen and be applied to Donald Trump for the squeeze to happen. Yes, That means that we are going to have some bumpy situations. Yes, that means that some people are going to have some difficulty, that there is going to be some struggle. We are going to make some sacrifice. But if while we're doing that, we are realigning our economy and making other decisions that are in our best interest, while the United States repeatedly keeps on punching itself in the dick by raising the price of everything that the people in the United States buy and creating some political problems for themselves in-house, then yes, why would we want to deal right now? Why would we want to make concessions before a court case decision comes down that says maybe we don't have to make them? Why would we want to be for the first to make concessions when there's an opportunity, when all the data is there to show that Donald Trump might be squeezed from the inside and might have to reverse himself on a lot of things before we even make concessions? Why would we? Pierre again wants to rush in and get it's there's a conservative fetish for expediency. Harper had the same thing, wanted everything done now, now, and then wanted to violate the law and gut laws and skip consultation and all that kind of stuff until so that he could get it done now, and basically ended up getting nothing done because these requirements for consultation and these rules and these laws exist for a reason. So we have the same thing here. Pierre wanting to rush into the room and say, well, we need a deal now. What do you need us to give away and so that we can have a deal and get some stability now? And then walk out of that and claim he won. And again, Kits and Cubs, you know that statement that came out. It was a quote, I think. Can't remember which American politician that said it. But those who would trade safety, was it security for, what is it? Oh, darn. I wish I could remember that quote now. So I'm going to look it up here for you because I want to make sure I get it right here. Yes, Benjamin Franklin it was who stated that. He said, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And as we say here, those who would give up essential sovereignty to purchase a little economic stability deserve neither sovereignty nor stability. And that's what conservatives here are preaching. Rush into the room, face down, ass up, take whatever Donald Trump gives you, sign on the line, and say, hey, we signed something. Now we know what the deal is, knowing very well that Donald Trump can change the deal on a whim at any given second. It is not serious here. Then he goes, the prime minister is accountable for the expectations he set for himself. It's time for the Liberal government to stop talking and start acting. I don't know where he gets the sense that no action is happening, and none of the premiers, again, are unhappy with this. And again, also in terms of consistency here, the Conservatives signed on to Bill C-5. So for Pierre to say that there's no action when they actually supported a government bill that got through the House in record time, and a bill that caused the Prime Minister to lose a little bit of political capital, particularly with Indigenous communities, again, just not serious. Quote, ambition means rejecting the tyranny of the status quo. I know the Prime Minister agrees, said Poilièvre. On election night, Mark Carney stated, quote, we will need to think big and act bigger. We will need to do things previously thought impossible at speeds we haven't seen in generations. Conservatives will ensure Prime Minister Carney's actions meet the ambition of his words. That is why today Pierre Poilièvre announced the Canadian Sovereignty Act, which calls on the government to, and here we go, repeal liberal growth blocks laws like Bill 669, which makes it nearly impossible to build pipelines and mines, which is a lie. Bill C-48, which banned oil tankers on Canada's west coast, which is a lie. The industrial carbon tax, which raises costs on everything for all Canadians and also allows us to export our products to other nations that have an industrial carbon tax. Pierre forgets to mention that part. The oil and gas cap that kills jobs. There is no oil and gas cap that kills jobs. There is an emissions cap, not a production cap. And so long as you work to reduce emissions, and there are jobs in finding ways to reduce emissions and in building the technology and installing it and making sure that it is operational, there are jobs in that. By the way, the EV sales mandate that will increase the price of gas-powered car by $20,000. No, the EV sales mandate doesn't increase the price of gas-powered cars by Oh my God, this guy. The plastics ban that blocks growth, because plastics are made with oil, of course. The liberal censorship law targeting energy companies, which gags producers from defending their work and promoting Canadian energy. It's not liberal censorship, it's basically a truth in advertising law. Say that if you are going to claim that you are green, then you actually have to have the data to back it up. You can't just do greenwashing. It's not censorship, it's truth in advertising. 2. Reward those who build. Introduce the Canada First Reinvestment Tax Cut to eliminate capital gains tax on reinvestments in Canada. We already eliminated the capital gains tax there, but he wants further cuts. And again, that's not for you at home. Pay free trade bonuses to provincial governments that open markets to fellow Canadians. Okay. Protect Canadian innovation. Require the Minister of Industry to present plans to Parliament to keep Canada's inventions, discoveries, and innovations from being sold off to other countries. We must have economic sovereignty in the modern economy, which is increasingly based on intangibles like intellectual property. In addition to the Act, we must get projects moving quickly. This new Act, combined with the extraordinary powers the Liberal government has, means they no longer have any excuse to stop projects. Conservatives are issuing a call to action to get shovels in the ground on at least 2 major pipelines, a road to the Ring of Fire, and 1 new greenfield and LNG project, all by March 14th, the 1-year anniversary of Carney taking office. So again, as I was saying, Pierre Poilièvre living in this sort of alternative reality in which he can just say, I want a pipeline, and that there's going to be shovels in the ground by March 14th, which has happened nowhere. Never happened once in the history of our country. Anything happened that damn quickly. So again, these are not serious proposals. It's not a serious thing. And he's saying that this act will give us, this permission to all get together and to do it. And there's nothing in this act that says repeal this, repeal that, has absolutely no convening mechanism and doesn't offer any permission slip, increased permission or authority or anything to do any of these things that he's mentioning. This is literally just all bullshit. These are projects that will move Canadian energy to market, create jobs, strengthen our sovereignty. The Liberal government must accomplish this while respecting Indigenous rights by upholding Section 35 of the Constitution Act. I laughed when Pierre says that because Pierre, we all know, he has no love for Indigenous people whatsoever, and certainly it does not care about respecting Indigenous rights. That's something that's easy for him to say when he's in opposition, but when he's in government, he runs off to CFRA and tells everybody that the Indigenous just need a little stronger work ethic, and that we should get some financial benefit from legal tort settlements. Come on. Conservatives reiterate their standing offer to help Liberal government secure the best deal for Canada. There has been no such standing offer. In fact, if you remember correctly, in January of this year, then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called all the leaders of the opposition parties into a room for an extraordinary meeting where he asked all of them to work their contacts for the benefit of Canada. And at that time, Pierre said, there's only one government Canada at the time. We cannot be doing that. That would send mixed messages. So, no, there has been no statement, no desire, no expressed offer to help the Liberal government secure the best deal for Canada and regain access to U.S. markets. And again, regain access to U.S. We haven't lost access to U.S. markets. We have the same access. It's just whether or not we want to pay for it in the form of all those tariffs. And even then, we don't pay the tariffs, right? We pay tariffs if we impose counter tariffs, but that's about it. Conservatives will introduce a motion in the fall, sitting of Parliament, to encourage all parties to pass the act at the earliest opportunity. It's not going to happen. Quote, this is a test of leadership. Poilièvre concluded, I'm calling on Prime Minister Carney to do what he promised, build at a scale that we haven't seen in generations and work with Conservatives to restore Canada's sovereignty in the face of American threats. While Mark Carney did promise to build at a scale we haven't seen in generations, I'm not sure he promised to work with Conservatives to restore Canada's sovereignty in the face of American threats. So Pierre has this ability or this infuriating talent for stuffing the words that he needs other people to have said into their mouths after the fact, and then claiming they said them, and then reacting and responding to what he needs / wished / wanted them to have said, rather than that which they actually did. But again, welcome to Pierre's fantasy imaginary world, right? That's what we deal with these people. It's just not serious in any way, shape, or form. Now, the last thing that has come from this source, the Conservative Party of Canada, and this is one here that made me laugh in particular, is Pierre Poilièvre posting something here, and I will show that for you right here. Stating, Canadians have spoken. They want pipelines and Canada needs them. Only national leadership will get the job done. And again, I have to point to the fact that for some reason, I don't know what it is with conservatives thinking that the only way for us to be prosperous is to take something out of the ground, put it in a pipeline or on a barge or on a ship, and then selling it to someone else. That there's like nothing else that we can do. This is the only thing. And we just pipelines, give us pipelines and minerals, pipelines and minerals. There's more to our economy than that. There's more than to running a country than that. But they're so out of ideas. They're so tired as a party that they have literally nothing else to offer. And on that front, it's not true that only national leadership will get the job done on pipelines and stuff like that. What will get the job done on that is a viable proponent. And we don't have one. And I always find that it's funny that this party that always says that government is the problem, that government needs to be smaller and play a smaller role in investment and development, is now claiming that a pipeline can only happen with federal leadership. And ironically, leadership that party, of which the person claiming this today was a member of and was a minister, was not able to provide for an entire decade when it was in power, when it managed, as I remind you, to build precisely 0 inches of pipeline towards Tidewater. This guy is so all over the place, I don't think he even knows what he believes anymore. It's it's just ridiculous. And this guy is saying that Mark Carney is failing with regard to C5, but C5 is a bill that he himself voted for. And now he seems to be expressing some type of regret because things aren't happening fast enough for his liking, but everything is happening exactly as stated it would in the bill. So the fact that he's having buyer's remorse, again, says a lot more about him than maybe he should not have put his name on that vote. Rather than putting his name on the vote and then systematically afterwards doing everything he can to try and reduce the confidence of Canadians in our own government to actually get the job done, thus lending a very helpful hand to American forces. Now, kits and cubs, there's one last thing I need to show you with regard to this, and this would be an interview that happened on August 7th, 2025, on Power and Politics with a member of the Conservative Party of Canada who has been sent to the CBC. You will notice that the Conservative Party of Canada, after having boycotted the CBC for the longest time, but then they lost the election, now have no problem using the CBC to send people out there to deliver their message. But with the number of MPs that they have in caucus, you think that they might have sent someone with a slightly better ability to answer questions and speak for the party than the person that they did in this clip. So, boy, kits and cubs, I am definitely going to play this for you. Might stop it for a couple of times to end with a little commentary, but please, as much as you can, enjoy this, and please note the lack of seriousness of the person, of the positions, and overall the party when it comes to this issue.
With U.S. tariffs now imposed on much of the world, here in Canada, Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre is ramping up his criticism of the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, for not securing a new trade deal.
Now, Mark Carney promised that he would handle Donald Trump. That's a quote. He said that he would negotiate a win with Donald Trump. He said that the deal would be done by July the 21st, and then he said it would be done by August the 1st. Those promises were not kept. The tariffs have actually doubled since Mark Carney became Prime Minister, promising that he would get results.
Instead, Poilièvre is proposing his own plan to spur the Canadian economy in the face of tariffs. He says his Canada Sovereignty Act would speed things up so that 2 pipeline projects, an LNG project, and a road to Ontario's Ring of Fire would be under construction by next March. For more on the plan, we've reached Shelby Kramp-Neuman. She is the conservative She is the conservative critic for Canada-U.S. trade. Thank you very much for joining us. I want to start about this announcement today from Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre. Tell us how this would work.
Thank you, Katie. Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be with you today. Look, this has been an extraordinarily tricky several weeks, months that we've been trying to manage. And Canadians in general are nervous, they're frustrated, they're concerned, and we don't know what's happening because the goalpost keeps getting moved forward and forward. Look, first we had a conversation at the G7 that we were going to have a deal by July 16th, and then that moved forward to July 21st. And then that moved forward to August 1st. So the goalpost keeps moving. So with the announcement today, we're saying Canadians need to get back to work. Canadians need to have a sense of where we're going. Canadians need some hope that we can move forward.
So how...
Okay, I'm going to interrupt here because the question asked was, how would the Canada Sovereignty Act work? You will notice she did not answer the question. She did not even attempt to answer the question. She talked about deadline dates that were missed, did not attribute the reason for them, and said that because these deadline dates were missed, well, that means that there's a lack of action, right? But no attempt to answer that question. And in that quote from Pierre Poilièvre in the opening, when he talks about the tariffs having doubled, we all know, because we've all seen politicians say it, that when you do all the math and all the calculations, that the effective tariff rate for all products combined in Canada is at a very low percentage, not even anywhere near 10% at the moment. However, if we're looking at the reality, there are certain sectors that are particularly highly targeted, like steel and aluminum with 50%, and then everything that's a CUSMA compliant trade is being hit with pretty much 0%. So when you average the number across the totality of the trade, it's only about, I think it is 5% or something, but it's a low number, except, again, certain industries are disproportionately affected. So when Pierre Poilièvre says that tariffs have doubled, I do not think, if anybody was to actually do the math, that if people are looking at the overall rate of tariffs over all of our trade, that has doubled. I don't think that happened. So again, I do not know where they are getting these numbers specifically. There are certain specific tariffs that have doubled, but has the overall tariff burden doubled, as Pierre seems to be suggesting here? No, that is not the case. All right, so let's get back to this conservative person that they sent to speak about this and see whether or not she will attempt to answer any question at all.
Exactly would that break down? So that's your goal, is to get things moving. How would the Conservatives make this happen? How do you want?
So basically, Katie Simpson is asking the same question a second time in a different way because she didn't get an answer the first time.
Want to see it take place?
For sure. Well, after basically a decade of liberal failures, I'll be quite candid respectfully, our industries have been crippled. We've got anti-developmental laws, emission caps, industrial carbon tax. There's a host of different policies that need to be reversed to get boots in the ground and Canadians back to work.
So again, she does not answer the question about how it will work. She goes back into criticizing liberals in the past. She says, I have to be frank, honestly. No, she doesn't have to be frank. She has to be critical because that's what she's doing. But she's not answering the question. She says that the bill will repeal a whole bunch of things, but that's what the Conservatives have been asking for all along for years. But the Conservatives never say how these things will help. They just say that these things are blocking investment. They don't say how specifically they're blocking investment, and they don't say how repealing them would make investment free. Pretty much like how Pierre Poilièvre was saying that it was the carbon tax and the carbon tax alone that had raised the price of food so much that so many people were lining up at food banks, and now the carbon tax is gone, but the price of food hasn't gone down. Almost like Pierre was lying the entire time about the carbon tax being the cause, because there were other things going on in the world that are still going on in the world that caused the prices of food to rise, like war in Ukraine, one of the breadbaskets of the world, or higher shipping, or production line disruptions, climate events, right? Droughts, fires, stuff like that. But no. Again, completely unserious, and once again, no attempt to answer. Let's see if she is willing to answer the next question that Katie Simpson has for her.
I understand your criticism of the Liberal government, but how exactly would this Conservative plan work?
Third time.
Well, look, Katie, with all due respect, respectfully, this conversation that has been happening over the last several months has been lacking. I have made several efforts, as have all Conservatives, to move the needle on this. Mark Carney promised that he would handle this during the election. He promised that he would negotiate a win. This is not happening. So how we can move forward with this, we need to resume the House. We did try to get the conversation back with the International Trade Committee. That hasn't happened. So we're just trying to show Canadians that there are solutions to this on the domestic side. We can't always handle what's happening south of the border, so we have to look at how we can do things in-house to get jobs, people on the jobs, boots on the ground, and shovels in the ground.
Okay, so for the third time, Katie Simpson asks her how this will work, and once again, she does not answer. Now, this time she starts with all due respect, so I'm guessing that this person claims is stating here by her non-answer that all the respect that Katie Simpson deserves as a journalist is not being taken seriously or having her questions taken seriously or being treated like her questions don't deserve a direct answer. Because if that was an attempt to be respectful, I didn't see the respect there. All right, let's see if Katie Simpson tries to ask a fourth time, or whether or not she moves on to another set of questions that this person will try to find a way to not answer. So far, this interview is disastrous for the Conservative Party of Canada.
I understand. We're going to get to the criticism in a moment, and I'm going to ask you for how you would like to see Mark Carney act differently. But for Canadians who are watching this who may not have seen Pierre Poilièvre's announcement today, I'm trying to understand what this plan outlines, and I'm not getting a sense of that from you.
No, I can happily provide that. I'll be quite specific. Bill C-69, which has made it impossible to build pipelines. We need to basically, there's a series of growth blocking laws that we need to repeal. Bill C-48, which banned oil tankers on the West Coast. The industrial carbon tax, which raises costs on everything for Canadians. The oil and gas cap, that's killing jobs. The EV sales mandate that will increase the price of gas-powered vehicles, the plastic bans, the censorship laws. There's a host of policies that need to be reversed, and it's a all in one, and it's a vision for Canadians as opposition, because we can't just be, parliamentarians often look at the short game, and we really have to look at the long game and how we can best benefit all Canadians.
Okay.
All right. So for the fourth time, Katie Simpson asks her, and this time she says, yeah, for sure, I have this all the time. And she doesn't answer the question yet again. She says that there's some anti-growth policies that we've had on the book, but those are the same ones that the Conservatives have been complaining before this Canada Sovereignty Act thing. This Canada Sovereignty Act thing adds nothing new. It's literally just repackaging. And Conservatives are saying that in order to grow, we have to destroy stuff. And that's it. But they do not explain how the things they want to destroy prevents growth And they do not claim how destroying the things they want to destroy would promote growth. They can't speak to their own bill. It's literally just word salad. Just repeal all these things and everything will be fine. Just like they said, just repeal the carbon tax and there would be no lines at food banks anymore. Right? But we still have the lines at food banks and the price of food is still high because it wasn't about the carbon tax. And anybody who knew anything, who had done the math, or listened to the economists who had done the math and said that the impact of carbon tax on food prices was essentially negligible, well, that was a reality that the conservatives didn't like. So they just kept on saying what they were going to say anyway. And now that the carbon tax is gone and that there is no result whatsoever that makes it such that food is much more affordable and all the things that they promised would happen if they just got rid of the carbon tax. Well, all of a sudden, well, they need something else to say, something else to blame for the fact that that's the case, because they can no longer blame the carbon tax. It's not there. It's so incredibly convenient to be a conservative that you can blame all the woes of the world on one specific thing. And when that pans out not to be true, all you have to do is take a step to the right and claim that something else did it. And here, I've got a lovely graph here for you, kits and cubs, that I can show you to prove that here. There we go. If we look at this graph here, the red line is Canadian CPI, Consumer Price Index food, right? And then the blue line here is the US CPI on food, where there was no carbon tax. You will see that our CPI on food was pretty much lower than the United States from 2010 till about 2016, where it surpassed it first for a little bit and then went lower again and lower again and lower again. Surpassed it a little bit in between 2019 and 20, and then it was even, surpassed it a little bit here, was even, and then after 2020 was lower than the United States and has remained lower than the United States the entire time. We see a little dip here, a little bit, yes, but our CPI on food has been lower than that of the United States pretty much entirely since 2010 and through the entire time of the so-called carbon tax that was making everything terrible. And now all of a sudden, you have on August 12th saying, Pierre Poilièvre going, food prices rising faster in Canada than the US as the Carney Liberals continue to drive up costs with inflationary spending and high taxes. But the so now apparently it's inflationary spending and high taxes that are causing it, and it's not the carbon tax. It just They just take a step and move to the right and just blame something else. Now, this was based on a post from the food professor, or a lot of people are calling him online the food donkey, when he leaves food and starts entering into politics or economics. He's not particularly reliable. But he says here, U.S. grocery store prices fell in July despite additional tariffs, with food inflation for store-bought items at 2.2%, down from 2.3% in June. In Canada, retail food inflation was much higher at 2.8% in June. Okay. So, yes, food prices are up. But yes, it's inflationary spending and high taxes, not the fact that there are wars or, shipping issues or droughts or, you know, certain things get infested, a tariff thing. Nope. 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 It's strictly inflationary spending and high taxes, neither of which Mark Carney has had an opportunity to act on yet because no, other than the tax cut, no money bills really have passed Parliament yet. And I believe that given that the carbon tax itself has been repealed, we actually have lower taxes than we did prior. So again, Pierre Poilièvre pretty much all over the place, not really having any sense at all of what it is he actually believes or what he stands for. Like I said, it's a complete and total mess in conservative world. Come up with some type of consistent position about anything and wanting as well as any of their solutions. All right, let's go back to this lady from the Conservative Party of Canada and see if she's got anything else for us.
So there's been some disagreement among Canada's premiers about the best path forward. We're hearing from Ontario Premier Doug Ford saying that Canada should retaliate harder, that tariffs should be increased against American goods. Other premiers are saying, no, perhaps it's time to scale that back. Which direction do you think the federal government should go in this moment in order to deal with Donald Trump?
Okay, very straightforward question. Either way A or way B. Let's see how this person rents a guide in the backpack through the woods for a 3-day trek to say neither A nor B.
Bottom line, Katie, I would suggest that we all need to be at the negotiating table. Right now, the government is I respect, it's a game of strategic chess. And right now, I'm not sure if there's anyone at the other end, at the other side of the table that's playing games. So we have to look at concessions. We don't know what concessions are being made at what cost. And Canadians, we have such a long-standing history and tradition and integration between our two economies that we have to recognize how we can together make this work. And right now, opposition, in my opinion, opposition needs to be at the table. We've put that offer out. It stands stale. Stakeholders need to be at the table. And right now, I've made conscious efforts to the government to have conversations. I've made conscious efforts to be in Ottawa and in Washington, speaking with stakeholders and industry leaders. And right now, if I can look into the cracked and cloudy crystal ball, we have to figure out and help stakeholders figure out how we're going to navigate in this path moving forward, because this isn't going to finish or end anytime soon.
But shouldn't there just be one voice for Canada at this point? Mark Carney ran during the election campaign. He won. We know in the negotiating room, it's Kirsten Hillman, who's the Canadian ambassador to the U.S. It's Dominic LeBlanc. We do know some of what's gone on back and forth through the announcement. So when you say we don't know what the concessions are, we kind of know what's already been put on the table. Canada agreeing to spend more than $1 billion on border security. Canada increasing military spending in order to meet those NATO targets. Canada agreeing to drop the DST. Do you agree with those moves so far?
The moves are talk. I would encourage Prime Minister Carney to meet the ambition of his words. And right now, there's a lot of announcements and a lot of conversations, but no real action is being made. Businesses and industries and families are feeling the hit across the board. So I think there's many pieces at play here, like even with regards to we're not knowing. There's so many unanswered questions. So I think that what I would encourage Prime Minister Carney to do is sit with the opposition, have that conversation respectfully, sit with stakeholders, and help everyone be that Team Canada that you referred to, and be the team, that one Canadian voice. We can do that. We can do that and respectfully move the needle on this.
Okay, so once again, she did not answer the question about whether or not it would be way A or way B that would be needed to go forward. And then the next question about, well, shouldn't there be one voice? She doesn't answer that either. And in all of that, she says that if there's any solution, it should be that they should bring Conservatives into the negotiating room. Because yes, they've shown that they're serious enough to have this responsibility. That's insane. That is never going to happen. It says that we need to bring stakeholders together. The Prime Minister just had a series of 3 meetings with Indigenous groups. He's all over meeting people from industry, left, right, and center. He's meeting trade partners and establishing deals and striking deals and signing protocols and stuff like that, left, right, and center. That's all we've been watching him doing. The Conservatives are basically butthurt because Prime Minister Mark Carney is not implementing their policy, the policy they ran on in a general election and lost so hard that even their own leader did not win his own seat. She can't answer questions. She can't say how the bill would work, but she can say, though, however, that Conservatives should be in the negotiating room. He even says that he should call everybody and bring them all together. Well, isn't that what he did when he got you guys to vote for C5? This is not a serious party. This is not a party that knows what it believes. This is not a party that knows what it stands for other than winning. This is a party that has no reason at the moment to exist. It doesn't want to govern. It wants to rule. It doesn't want to govern for all Canadians because it keeps on talking smack about a big portion of us. It has no solutions. It can't pivot. It has no originality. All it can do is repackage stuff they said before that failed and put a new label on it that they plagiarized from the government of Alberta. And then whine that they're not in the room to participate in the negotiations. Like this, where I'm assuming that their behavior in the room would be like their behavior outside of the room, where all they would do in the room is, well, talk crap about the current government and maybe try to sympathize with the Americans and say, well, I don't know why this guy is doing this. We wouldn't do that. How would this be helpful in any way? When you're opposition and you want a seat at that table, that's a seat you really need to earn. And you need to earn by showing over the long time and a very long time consistently that you are a party that's actually seized with the issue and not seizing on owning the people who are trying to resolve the issue. This party cannot do that. All right, let's see what else it is that she has to offer, or I should say, refuse to offer in this case, because trying to get any information out of her is like trying to get water on.
But has he not done that, meeting with Indigenous stakeholders today? He's met with industry leaders. He's been consulting with the premiers. Has that not been happening? Are you just saying that you specifically would like to be included in the consultation process and you feel it's unfair that you've been left out?
I think it's imperative that we're at the negotiating table. Full stop.
So you think a Conservative MP should be at the negotiating table in the room with Kirsten Hillman and Dom LeBlanc?
It certainly would help.
Okay, we'll leave the conversation there. Thank you very much for your time today. That is the Conservative critic for Canada-US trade.
It certainly would help. It certainly would help. How? Right? You would think at that particular opportunity, you would say, well, it certainly would help because we could do this, this, and this. And doing this and this and this would have a benefit in this, this, and this way. That would be a complete answer. But Katie Simpson really zeroed in at the last minute. So basically, is this whole thing a temper tantrum on your part because you're not in the room and you don't get to have a say directly? So yeah, and it would help if we could. From the party that has been summarily unhelpful, that has gone out of its way to be unhelpful at every stage of this process, with the exception of voting in favor of C5. Are you fucking kidding me right now? This is, again, I keep on saying, this is not a serious party. Pierre Poilièvre is not a serious candidate, but all of those statements are definite red meat for the base, particularly in Battle River-Crowfoot, for Pierre to get their vote, a vote that he seems to desperately need in order to win by a margin significant enough that he doesn't have his ass handed back to him come leadership review time. That's if he wins this seat at all. Bonnie Critchley several weeks, maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe a little more, had to have more signs printed. That would be, for lack of a better word, a sign that things aren't going as well on the ground as Pierre would have, Pierre would have had hoped, because I don't. It's pretty rare for an independent candidate to have to print more signs because there's so much demand for them. So I don't know if that means that Pierre will still get 70%, will get 7%, will get 60%, by what a margin he will indicate he will win. But this desperation on the part of the party over the last 2 weeks of just punching down on absolutely everything Canada does, that looking at every data point and interpreting it in the worst possible way, being completely dishonest about certain things, like our leaders going down to Mexico to grovel for a bilateral trade agreement, which never happened and was never on the table, and claiming they got snubbed when they did indeed have a minister with the president of Mexico and high officials. And between the time we did our show yesterday and the show that I'm recording today, it seems that there is more progress moving forward with regard to a date for the Prime Minister of Canada to actually be meeting with President Sheinbaum. It seems that they have moved much forward on that, and that's advanced. So that would be a sign that those meetings between the minister, the two ministers, and the president went well, according here to CBC, posted yesterday by Darren Major. Prime Minister Mark Carney is set to visit Mexico next month as the countries try to navigate trade relations with the United States. Oh, interesting. Gee, that's an interesting result for a meeting at which ministers were snubbed and begging for a bilateral trade organization and were sent packing, if we're going to believe the conservative version of events about which they're commenting, where they had nobody in the room. The party is literally just making shit up. Well, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like us to help you, we can definitely do that, because sometimes you're on the go and you don't have time to watch us live. Well, don't worry about it, because we have a audiocast version only, which is portable. You can take us with you, put us in your ears, and that way you can get through all the things you need to get through in your day in order to be an engaged, all the things you need to get through during your day, right? Because you're a busy person, and still remain an engaged citizen who is informed. So please go to podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words if you are listening. And if you are watching, please scan that QR code, like I said, made available to us through the generosity of the Ray Girl. And that way, when you click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the podcast bandwidth, zip right into your favorite podcast feed. You don't even have to go looking for us. We come to you. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like to help us, we could certainly use your help. And you can do that by surfing on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where Kits, Cassie, and Elaine will be beckoning you to click our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. Give them a little tickle. It makes us happy when you do, and it helps us with the algorithm. And if you would like to help us in other ways, kids and cubs, we're near the mid-month, and we could definitely use your assistance with the costs that we incur to bring this show to you, kids and cubs. We have something called the Emergency Hydration Fund, which is basically our tip jar, and it is available at our coffee page. That is coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. Or if you scan that QR code that has appeared in the top corner there, that will bring you right there. And there you can make an enthusiastic expression of encouragement so that we can produce more for you. And we do thank you for your generosity. Now, if you're not able to contribute financially, please don't worry, because the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us, and we love to hear from you. So please take the time, if you can, to write to us at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. Let us know what you think about the show. Some constructive criticism, always welcome. Compliments are always extremely welcome. Or if you even have guest suggestions, we like to hear from you. So please write to us, Kids and Cubs. And that email address, by the way, if you do want to make a donation, but you're buying Canadian, is the one that you use for a direct bank-to-bank transfer. Your transaction remains entirely Canadian. Win. No US CE Tech Bros come in and take a cut. Win. And we get 100% of your donation. Win. It's really the best way to go. So we thank you for your support and your generosity. And Kids and Cubs, please know that everything that you do, whether that you send us something in print or send us something that is financial, all of it helps, and all of it gets put back into the show in order to make a better show for you, Kids and Cubs. Now, if you want to reach us via our socials, at True Eager, at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, and on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, which is our original home, or if you happen to be listening on our YouTube channel, either live with the best DAMFAM in all of podcasting, or at your own convenience, right down here in the comment section. Leave us a little something. We read everything you write, even though we're not able to answer everyone. Because democracy is something that you do, Kids and Cubs. Go vote today if you are in Battle River-Crowfoot and you haven't already. Very, very important. Also, if you are in Alberta, Mr. Thomas Lukasik has the Forever Canadian petition going on and is looking for more canvassers, some donations, some volunteers, all of that, some pledges to sign the petition when it arrives. All of that, if you want to be visible and be known and be counted, www.forever-canadian.ca is the web address to which you go to signal your intent. Things are progressing very well so far. Mr. Lukasik seems to be happy with the progress, but still does need more help. So please, Kids and Cubs, if you live in Alberta, do make yourselves known and do make an effort to go sign that, so that Elections Alberta can say that all the signatures have been received and in a number too great for Daniel Smith to manipulate, and that question about keeping Alberta within Canada is the one that will indeed go on the ballot. We thank you so much for that. Words of wisdom, Kids and Cubs. Again, as you know, Mr. Grizzly is the expert on this one. But my words of wisdom today for you are just whatever it is that you need to do today, do it with gusto. Be enthusiastic about what it is that you have to do, or about the effort that you're going to put in, even if what you have to do might be a little tough or taxing or demanding. And perhaps that will make things go much better than for which you had hoped. All right, Kids and Cubs, it could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And of course, since you're not here with me today, you can't tell me to cue the cock, but in my mind, I'm going to imagine that you are, and that you have melodiously asked me to do that, and therefore I will oblige. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. Just rocking out to our groovy music here, Kids and Cubs. All right. Amour et bisous. And we will see you tonight, right? 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time for live results coming from Battle River-Crowfoot. And hopefully we'll have some more insights into what the future will hold once those results come in. All right. Until then, though, I hope that you are having a most wonderful day. See you soon. Bye, everyone.